Hey friends, it's Ryan with Arrows of Love. Today I'm starting my series Learn the Planets for those of you who are interested in learning more about astrology. And we're going to be taking Venus through the different signs. And this is actually a really great day to do so because Venus just ingressed into Virgo, leaving our dear friend Leo behind. So we're going to talk about what that all means. And to really start, you have to know what Venus is all about and what it represents. Venus is known as the planet of love and relationships, and that's true. But that only goes so far. It's kind of surface level. So we really have to understand what Venus is all about. Venus is also about sexuality. It's about aesthetics. It's about sensuality, the touch, the smell, the music, the nice noise. It's all about sensuality in the sense that things that we can tangibly feel or touch. Now, Venus rules Taurus and Libra. So there's this other side of Venus as well, where it's all about negotiating, harmonizing, cooperation, fairness, and balance. So it brings balance and aesthetic together into one. So that's what we can expect whenever Venus is traveling through a certain house or a certain sign. Now we look to Virgo first. What is Virgo all about? Virgo is ruled by Mercury. And Mercury is this intellectual planet. It's all about mental processes, the exchange of ideas, decoding, deconstructing, business savvy, moving assets, moving ideas, moving thought, communication, writing, speaking. So imagine it like the basketball court, and you're dribbling the basketball up and down the court, back and forth, back and forth. That is a mercurial type moment. Whereas if you're going into Starbucks, let's say, to buy your caramel iced macchiato, the exchange of money between you and the cashier, the greeting, hello, what do you want? Do you want extra icing? Do you want a sprinkle of cinnamon on top? Anything like that. That is a mercurial type exchange. Whereas you sitting down in the nice aesthetic of a Starbucks, reading your laptop, well, that's actually more Mercury. Let's say you're reading a nice book and you really enjoy the nice parchment on the paper, for instance. You just like the touch of the paper on your skin and the taste of the whipping cream on top of your coffee, for instance. That is far more Venusian in nature as opposed to mercurial, because you're enjoying the senses, you're enjoying the aesthetic of your coffee, you're enjoying the aesthetic of your surroundings, for instance. So the two don't actually go hand in hand. They're archetypal tensions, whereas Mercury is more about the mental processes, the thinking, the writing, the communicating, the speaking, the exchange of ideas, the decoding, the deconstructing of data, or putting together data. Far more mercurial, whereas enjoying the nice food, sitting down on the couch with your blanket and cuddling up with the dog, for instance, that is far more Venusian in nature. So when you put Venus in the sign of Mercury, there is an automatic tension between the two, because you have a very intellectually focused sign, one that's focused on details, decoding, deconstructing, purity, for instance. It is the Virgin after all. And you're mixing it with something far more sensual. So you come up with something in between, obviously, but there usually is a tension when Venus is traveling through one of these signs, one of these mercurial signs, and that's Gemini and Virgo. Virgo in particular can cause some problems for Mercury because Venus is exalted, and this is a part of the essential dignities. Venus is exalted in Pisces, which is the exact opposite sign of Virgo. So let's just put it into an example. Let's say you are traveling to Hotel Pisces, and Hotel Pisces is owned by Jupiter. That is the ancient ruler of Pisces. And let's say, Jupiter decides to go into business with Neptune as the modern owner. So the two kind of co-own it, so to speak. Now, when Venus arrives, for instance, at Hotel Pisces, she gets the penthouse suite with bubble baths, rose petals laid out across the bed, a nice bottle of champagne, probably her favorite vintage, a nice little handwritten note welcoming her for however long she plans to stay, and then she's likely going to have room service brought to her free of charge. with her favorite meal. And it's probably something very light, like figs with olives, hand-grown in Italy and then flown first class just for her. And then she's going to enjoy her nice bottle of champagne, probably Dom or something to that effect. So that is what Venus can expect when she's staying at Hotel Pisces. Now, when she's staying at Hotel Virgo, which is the exact opposite side of the wheel from Pisces, she might be staying in the basement, so on a cot somewhere. Maybe she's lucky if she gets a blanket and a pillow. So here she's in her fall position. So she doesn't do quite as well in Virgo. And really what it comes down to is the two have to mix somehow. Venusian expressions have to go through the lens of Mercury, the lens of Virgo. So anything sensual, anything that comes up that you want to, let's say, cook a nice dinner, you're going to have to go to your cookbook first. Maybe you go to your Ina Garten favorite cookbook and you want to learn, you want to make a really nice meal for your significant other, and you're going to decide to make lamb chops. So first you have to do the learning aspect of it first, instead of just jumping into a recipe that you've never cooked before. So there's always this learning aspect when Venus is sitting in Virgo. It's attention to the details. It's attention to the process by which we get the result. And then if you follow the process, if you follow the learning, if you follow the instructions, the communication, then you get the beautiful meal at the end. So you have to mix the two in order to get something beautiful. But otherwise, Venus sitting in Virgo, it takes on this more intellectual quality. It can be a little bit more detached, but at the same time, Virgo is an earth sign, so it can be very practical in nature. So Venus might be more practical. Maybe helping cleaning up your life at some point, because that's what Virgo does. Virgo wants to fix things, synthesize, organize, and make it better. And Venus wants to just enjoy the moment and have a nice time and drink its wine while little old Virgo is, vacuuming or cleaning out a closet. So during this time, there can be potential issues between head and heart. It's the classic tension between the two, especially when Venus is sitting over in Virgo. And this only lasts about 3.5 weeks, but we can expect some type of tension to come through depending on which house this lands in your chart. And if you're wondering, how do you determine the houses? The easiest way to do this is you need to find your birth time. And this can be done on your birth certificate. And if you don't know, go ask mom, because usually mom knows or mom will remember. Otherwise, there's different ways you can determine this. You can talk to me, for instance. If you don't know, we can try to land on that depending on a few questions. But you can also go look this up sometimes in the county records or city records, depending on where your birth chart or your birth certificate is located. So take a look at your birth certificate first if you don't know that. If it's not on there, ask mom. And then go to astroseek.com or astro.com, and you can type in your birthplace, your birth date, your birth time, and it's going to give you your full natal picture, and it will tell you exactly which house, where's your rising sign, and which house Venus lands in. So if you happen to have, I'll just give you one example. I'm a Cancer rising. So when you look at the birth chart, your rising sign is always going to be on the easternmost side, right in the middle of the chart, because that's where it always starts when you're reading a chart. So house 1 is always on the left-hand side, right in the center, and then it's moving down. So that's your first house. So for instance, I'm a Cancer rising. My Venus is sitting over in Capricorn. So it's directly opposing my ascendant, just about. So it's in my 7th house. If Venus was in Virgo, for instance, Virgo could potentially be my 3rd house if we're taking it by whole sign aspects. So first house would be Cancer, 2nd house would be Leo, 3rd house, for instance, would be Virgo if I was a Cancer rising. So that's how you would read that. And you can do that for any other sign, and it will tell you exactly which house it lands in. But if you're a Virgo, if you have a Venus in Virgo, you can see that there's going to be this archetypal tension between head and heart. mental processes, sensual pleasures. And that's really what it comes down to. And there's always a blending of the two. So if you're looking to go on a date, for instance, a really good way to harness this type of energy would be go to one of these escape rooms. Something that requires really close attention to detail, but you're working toward a common cause. But it also requires some sensuality, some type of sensual touch. It could be touch, for instance. Perhaps you're, these escape rooms do a whole bunch of different things, for instance. Sometimes they play with lighting, sometimes they play with your eyesight, sometimes it's hearing. You have to, so it's like this mixing of the two, but it's very mentally driven, because Virgo, for instance, is ruled by Mercury. That's all about mental processes and exchanges. So that's what you can expect when Venus is traveling through the sign. We're just not going to see the full flavor of Venus at this time. It takes on this more mercurial quality. It's going to be mind over heart in this instance, and wanting to balance out the two. So the good way to do that is go to an escape room, take your date there, and it could be a really fun time if you can bring some friends. And it triggers that mercurial thinking, but it also brings in this Venusian quality if you're on a date, or if you need to tone in or tap into the senses, so to speak. And you need to cooperate and you need to negotiate. And that taps into Venus in Libra, which it rules. So think of it this way: you kind of got to be creative, and that's also Venus. It's a sign of creativity. So you got to think outside the box in order to really harness this information and not get stuck in the typical Venus and Virgo. Well, it's all mental and it's no heart. You don't see the emotion come out. Those are typical things that you would see or you would hear about someone with this particular placement. So you kind of got to play around with it a little bit. You got to be creative and how to get the emotion out, how to get the feeling out. And it's got to be through some mental processes, something that stimulates the mind for this particular placement. So I hope you enjoyed these videos. I'm going to do more of them as Venus starts making her way through the zodiacal wheel, and also do the house placements too as I have time. But I just want to get this started. I will be back doing the tarot card readings this weekend. I was on vacation, so I needed some time off to do some recouping and spend some time with family. So I will be back. Hope you enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, and we'll talk to you later. See ya.